Bernie suspends his campaign. But is it all over? Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America. Well, as if the horrible nightmare of a circus that is election season could not get worse for anybody that hopes and prays for the victory of Medicare for all and just general human goodness in the first place. We have to report that the big homie, Bernie Sanders, is, as of right now, as of 2 October at 7:30 p.m., suspended campaign events after having stents inserted. Here is from CBS News, leading Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders is recovering after doctors found a blockage in one artery and inserted 2 stents. Sanders is canceling his campaign until further notice, according to his senior advisor, Jeff Weaver. And the quote says, during a campaign event yesterday evening, Senator Sanders experienced some chest discomfort. Following medical evaluation and testing, he was found to have a blockage in one artery and 2 stents were successfully inserted. Senator Sanders is conversing and in good spirits. He will be resting up over the next few days. We are canceling his events and appearances until further notice, and we will continue to provide appropriate updates. Now, a lot of people are putting the nail in the coffin for the Sanders campaign because of this. In my opinion, that's a bit too early. I don't know if you guys remember the infamous 9/11 collapse of Miss Hillary Clinton. It was played up, Trump made a few allusions to it, but by the time it was time for the general elections and the debates, etc., it really didn't have much power or steam behind it, and of course we had grab them by the junk and all the rest of it. And I think if Bernie were to make a comeback and if the picture that Jeff Weaver is painting, which is, oh, he just had to get a stent inserted, he's in good health and he's in good spirits and you know everything's good, you know, he'll rest up and everything will be fine once we hit the campaign trail. You know, another article said that he felt the best he's felt in a long time, which makes sense when you have a blocked artery and you get a stent that kind of goes in there and then opens it up so that you can get that blood flow. Of course he feels better than he's ever felt in a long time. That's not necessarily good news. One wonders, you would assume that a guy like Bernie would have the epitome of healthcare, and that prior to this run, that during a checkup of some sort, you would have gotten that taken care of. Now, I'm not a medical expert, so I don't really, I just don't it seems to me that the folks in the Sanders campaign do not take care of him very well. You know, they had him out there, he was doing marathon sessions, and he sounded absolutely terrible during the last Democratic debate. And if Joe Biden wasn't such a plane crash during that debate where his teeth almost fell out and he made that very bizarre statement about listening to the radio player so the kids can learn words, you know, stuff that, you know, people coming off of Ellis Island would have found helpful, you know, in the 20s and 30s, but not something pertinent to 2019. I mean, he was able to kind of hide those issues, but I just don't understand. It's just, you know, and Jimmy Dore kind of took the Sanders crew to task for this because he was like, "What's wrong with you guys? Did you not know that you know he needed a break?" And so it just seems to me that you know, I think when it comes to Biden, Clinton, I mean Hillary and Sanders, I think they should adopt the same kind of ideology that these sports stars adopt, which is basically, you know, Tom Brady's 42 years old, playing a very, you know, high contact sport and still is able to do very well with it, but the Patriots didn't have him practice on a Wednesday. And he himself personally spends a ton of money on his body, and he's basically almost erected this entire religion around taking care of your body. Same thing with LeBron James. It's estimated LeBron spends about $1 million a year on his body. These are professional athletes, of course, who, as they age, have to work harder to keep their body in sort of tip-top condition. And, you know, look, when you hear that presidential races are marathons, and that you've got to be physically fit in order to make that happen, it's mind-boggling to me that all of these, you know, I mean, you got guys pushing the 70s, right? You got Biden, I don't know how old he is, but he's definitely looking his age. You got Sanders, you had Clinton, you know, back in 2016 where she collapsed, and of course her folks went out on you know, camera and were smiling and talking about how she's fine and yada yada yada, and it was a complete lie. None of us really know what was going on with her, and none of us ever will, apparently. So I appreciate that the Sanders group didn't do that. I mean, he had no televised fainting episode, but I appreciate the fact that they told us the truth instead of saying Bernie's gonna arrest or something like that, and then some guy or girl leaks to us that no, he actually had it. So I'm glad that he was straightforward about it. But what's confusing to me is, why did they not look at this as sort of like a LeBron James, Tom Brady issue? Like, you're coming up in age, this is a contact sport, and it's a marathon, and it's going to be brutal. So we need you in tip-top condition, and so we're going to make sure that you're fully checked out by your doctor. We're going to get the stint taken care of before you even start running. To me, it seems pretty obvious now. Obviously, hindsight is 20/20, but I mean, this is not one of those situations, I think, where I can be looked at as that, right? I mean, it seems pretty obvious. So that's a problem for me. But the larger issue, of course, is that so scenario A, he rests up for a couple weeks, everything's fine, and he's back to the old Bernie we know and love, and it's probably in the best interest of everyone that he takes a couple weeks off anyway, because, I mean, I remember Bernie, I forgot what, it might have been Standing Rock, but it was right after the 2016 elections, and they were asking him about Hillary and all this stuff, and he's like, look, I don't have the time to talk about what happened. The election's over, Trump's the president, but I got this issue over Standing Rock, and he was gone. He left the interview and off he went. So my point is, Bernie never stopped. There were two personalities in the 2016 election that never really stopped working and campaigning and going state to state. One of them was Bernie, the other one was Donald Trump. Donald Trump never stopped campaigning. He never stopped traveling around, because I think Donald Trump gets, you know, he's got the personality type where he's energized by the roar of the crowd, etc. So there's a payoff for Trump to fly all over the place and go to these places. So I don't think it's as physically and psychologically taxing to Trump as it would to a normal person. But you know, when you've got a job that requires you to fly all across the country, and you're in 6 states in 2 days, and you're speaking, and people expect you to speak with a certain type of energy, because Sanders' events are pretty high energy affairs, and his folks are high energy people, and so there's a certain expectation, and then afterwards pressing the flesh, kissing the babies, and then jumping on a plane, and always having to be on game. You know, it's like a rock star. A rock star is able to say, I don't want to talk to anybody today, or no autographs, or I'm staying in the bus, and everybody kind of expects that behavior from a rock star, but not from a presidential candidate. And so it's like we were running these guys into the ground, and I think there needs to be some sort of protocol considering the man's age. Now, scenario B, which is, it is not a simple issue where he rests up for a couple weeks, but it's a major issue. He's either going to have to simply step out and then channel all of that energy to Elizabeth Warren or whoever he believes in. Otherwise, it's going to be an absolute disaster for the DNC. Because Trump is going to say, we're in this trade war with China. We've got this weak socialist who might die in office. I mean, you want to hand the country over to that guy? I mean, it's open and shut. I mean, it's going to be a disaster for the DNC. The problem is, if Bernie stays, if he's really unhealthy and not going to recover as quick as we hope that he is, if he stays in the running, then it's going to turn into one of those situations that kind of that happened last time, where Hillary was saying, "Hey, he wasn't loyal to the party because he stayed longer than he should have, and it hurt us." The previous time, I thought that was complete BS, but this time, anybody would have a point, because what's going to happen is Bernie supporters are so emotional and they're so loyal to him that he absolutely would cause a bunch of discord, pain, and suffering in the DNC, and cause a lot of fractures. I can immediately hear people throwing out the ageism card now. This is a form of ageism. And it's the same thing they did with Biden when it was clear that Biden was losing his mind. I'm sorry, it is not ageism to say that you are too old to occupy the office, because it's a grueling task to occupy that office. Sori and I have been kind of confused as to why Tulsi Gabbard is constantly posting her workout videos, but now it's starting to make sense. You got Joe Biden, who's, I don't want to pile on Biden, but he's losing his teeth during debates, and he's forgetting stuff. And now you've got Bernie, and you had Hillary last year, and then you've got Tulsi. He's doing 600 squats a day and running 6 miles a day and all that jazz. She's absolutely healthy. She's tough, and she is somebody that I believe could sit aside from the Chinese and continue the trade war. I do believe she would be able to. So now I sort of get it. I think it's more of a subliminal sort of messaging here. Like, look, these folks, they're out to pasture. It's over. And I don't think it's an ageist thing to say. Just like it wouldn't be ageist to say, look, Tom Brady, when you hit 50, if Tom Brady's knees went out, and they just went out due to wear and tear of old age, it's not ageism to say, look, man, once you hit your late 30s in the NFL, your career is over. You're 42. You had a good run. Let it go. It's over. That's not ageism. That's realism. And so if that's the case, then I think, Bernie, they need to really sit and think about their exit strategy, and then they need to think about, channeling all of the remaining energy that Bernie has to another candidate. Whether it be Elizabeth Warren, apparently she's going to emerge as front runner. I don't think Elizabeth Warren is going to do very well against Bernie. I do not. So those, to me, seem to be the two eventualities. But I got to say, not to beat a dead horse, but to beat the dead horse, the DNC hostile takeover of Bernie's campaign in 2016, which we've all read on WikiLeaks, which apparently is a crime, apparently, for us Americans to know what actually happened behind the scenes on the DNC. Now it's coming into full relief. And now we're starting to see, on top of the fact that this was an absolute disaster of a thing for them to do, now we're seeing it's got massive ramifications and is now affecting even this election. Because I firmly believe that Bernie would have trounced Trump as a left-wing populist, and he would have been able to do that. And it's much more secure to win as an incumbent. He can rest up. The flight patterns are not as grueling. I mean, everything changes if Bernie's a president, but he isn't, so now he's got to run like a regular person, and now here he is. It appears that he doesn't have the ability to do so. You guys, Trump is going to do something. He's going to tweet. He's going to tweet about something. He's going to bring it up, and I foresee a lot of DNC candidates bringing this up if it continues. And if his condition doesn't get better, I can see them politely trying to send him off to pasture. Look, we already saw this with Julian Castro when he went after Biden and said, you don't know what you just said 2 seconds ago? Now, I don't think you're going to be able to go after Bernie the way that Julian went after Biden, because Bernie is genuinely loved by people. Biden is tolerated, but Bernie is genuinely loved. I mean, the man has a cult. And I don't mean that in the pejorative sense. And so, but I predict in the next couple days and weeks, etc., that you're going to have some Democratic Party members artfully trying to send him off to pasture, and Trump is going to not so artfully try to do the same thing. And if anybody tries to defend him, he's simply, I can see Trump, you heard it first, retweeting what a Democrat has to say about Bernie, getting out of the race. And quite frankly, I think the only person that Trump is genuinely afraid of is Bernie. I feel like Trump thinks he could beat everybody else except for Tulsi, but I think Trump understands that the DNC is never going to allow a Tulsi type of character to emerge. Not in 2020 anyway. So this is where we are. Obviously, aside from all the politics, Bernie's a human being, creating the image and likeness of God, and so prayers for the big homie. Make sure he's okay. Hopefully he rests up and continue to do the good things that he's done in the world so far. So there we are. We will update y'all as soon as we find out more. Love your neighbor. Take care of each other. Middle America, we are the media. Till next time, guys.